and thanks for joining me for today's First Five. Today we're in Mark chapter 8, and we'll be looking at verses 22 through 26. This is the story of when Jesus heals the blind man, so let's read that together. Starting in verse 22, it says, "They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, 'Do you see anything?' He looked up and said, 'I see people. They look like trees walking around.' Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, 'Don't even go into the village.'" So we have seen many times throughout the New Testament Jesus performing miracles, so this isn't new. But what I thought was distinct about this particular instance is that this is the only miracle that I could find, could think about, that wasn't instantaneous, that it happened gradually, now maybe just in a few moments, but it didn't just happen completely in one moment. The sight of this blind man was restored in stages, right? So he spit on his eyes and he says, "Do you see anything?" And he said, "Yeah, I see some people and they look like trees." But then he laid hands on him again and then he was completely restored. So it reminded me a little bit of our journey with Christ. As a Christian, a lot of times, if you're anything like me, I'm really impatient. That is not something that is easy for me to wait for results, especially if I think I can complete them, if I can get the results accomplished in my own power. When I feel like a lot of times as Christians, we want those results. We say we are turning our lives over to God, and so therefore restoration should be 100% in completion. But I think more often it happens like this. It happens in stages because God is mysterious and his truth is so vast. And I feel like God's truth is discovered much like this, in stages. Not in an instant. There's just so much mystery about God that we could hardly discover it in a moment. That's why it's called a journey. Our journey with Christ. And so I was thinking about this story and I thought about my life as a teacher. We would have teacher evaluation and our principal would come in and they would watch you teach and then they would give you a form of reflection about how you did. And essentially the goal was to be called a master teacher, which you would never even think to be called master teacher until you've taught for several years. And so those were the teachers, a lot of them that I looked up to, that I aspired to be like. But the coolest thing about almost every one of those teachers that I talked to was that they admitted that even after 20, 30 years of teaching, that they have not arrived yet. This is probably the trick to being good, is that there is always more to learn and ways to grow and things to improve on, because things change. Your kids, your class changes, the situation around you changes. There's new techniques, new strategies that are more efficient. And so those teachers always were learning and growing and changing and adapting, and they were master teachers because they never settled and never were content with just what they knew and what they thought and what had always been done in the past. They've always been adapting and changing to their environment around them to meet the needs of their students the best. So I just think William Barclay puts it nicely when he says this, because I don't diminish that life change and restoration can happen in a moment, 100% agree. But I also think that we as Christians need to be patient with ourselves, give ourselves a little bit more grace with our journey and also with other people, and accepting them where they are in their journey, but also knowing that this is a process and this happens over time. So let me read you the words of William Barclay. It says, "It is gloriously true that sudden conversion is a gracious possibility, but it is equally true that every day we should be reconverted. With all God's grace and glory before us, we can go on learning for a lifetime and still need eternity to know as we are known." I think those words are beautiful and true, and an encouragement for us, not something to set us back and say, well, we'll never be enough. No, but just that it's a constant journey and an unraveling of God's truth and who he is and who we are in him. So let that be an encouragement to you today, not something to hold you back and think, well, this will never be accomplished. This will never be finished. No, our journey will never be finished in its entirety until we are reunited with Jesus. But let this be an encouragement to you to continue to run the race, to learn more about Jesus, and to be reconverted daily to the person that God created us to be, and have patience to endure even when it seems difficult, and patience to endure with other people that are just starting or traveling this journey as well. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for another First Five.